Gandía. I thought brought a new joy and perspective to our lives. We were no longer just two. Now we had someone who depended on us, who needed our care, and above all, a lot of love. And none of that was scarce for our little one. The first days, almost the first month, were a bit hard, especially for me. The birth have been very long and painful for a first-time mother. I thought was a child of considerable size at birth, 9 pounds and almost 21 inches. I was very much in pain, tired, and although I didn't know it then, today I can say that postpartum depression hit me like many other mothers. I thought needed to eat every 2 hours. He received my breast milk from the beginning and for about 6 months. But that first month was a total upheaval for both Carlos and me. The sleep was light and interrupted every 2 or 3 hours maximum. Your first child brings many questions, doubts, and sometimes helplessness. He cries and you do everything in your power and everything you know to calm him down, from feeding him, changing his diaper, rocking him, and sometimes leaving him crying as a lost cause. All this accumulates in the body and mind along with the natural hormonal changes, and life becomes chaos for a few days from which you think you will never get out. I remember afternoons crying alone in my room those first days when, in addition, visitors appeared uncontrollably to meet a new member of the family. Sometimes my tears and sadness were mixed with real anger, as some of my husband's relatives will come into my room and take the child out of his crib, interrupting the sleep that had cost me so much to conceal for him. It was as if I wasn't there and didn't count on anything. Thank God, after 2 or 3 months, I thought stabilized in his eating and sleeping routines and became a beautiful and calm baby, smiling and playful, capable of falling asleep anywhere and in any way. Our then dog, Snoopy, whom I mentioned in a previous chapter in the other house we inhabited, formed a wonderful bond of affection with the child and liked to sleep under his cradle. I think it was a protective gesture towards him. Snoopy was adopted by us when his owners, an American family from the base, had to return to the United States and could not take him with them. Snoopy was a great dog. According to our veterinarian, a foxhound of the breed, white with caramel-colored spots. After the birth of our son, I did not return to work. First of all, I was not in physical condition, and most importantly, I wanted to dedicate myself to my son, body and soul. In addition, at that time, our economic situation was not the worst in the world. Carlos had a good salary, and we could support ourselves without luxuries, but comfortably. But that phase will end when I thought was close to completing his first year of life. Carlos lost his job at the Romareda Hotel in Zaragoza and had to find something new. And that something appeared in the city of Gandía, in the region of Valencia in Spain. More specifically in what it's called La Playa de Gandía, Gandía's beach, where there are dozens of hotels and apartments, as well as restaurants and other amenities. Having to leave our apartment closed until we did not know when, we decided to propose to my brother and my then future sister-in-law to occupy it and take care of it, and incidentally give them a home, because my brother was already in the Air Force as a professional and my sister-in-law was studying at the Labor University of Zaragoza. And since they were thinking of starting a new life together in earnest, that was an advantage and an opportunity for them. So in 1987, with what we could carry, we headed to Valencia in a red Seat 127, which, by the way, had already given us some problems, to start a new stage where Carlos will run in the Madrid hotel, a new position and challenge for him, who had never worked as a director until then, but in which he put a lot of enthusiasm and effort. While we were residing there, we were accommodated in an apartment complex that also belonged to the hotel. They were no luxury, but they were comfortable and enough for the three of us. The hotel was not very big, but it was very nice, with a great pool that Aitor and I enjoyed, as it was summer when we arrived. The hotel mostly received groups of elderly people who enjoyed full board for reasonable prices, and groups of English tourists who sought the sun of Spain, especially that of the Mediterranean coast, far from the cold, humid and dreary climate of their native England. Among those groups, one stood out preferentially for me, but also for Carlos, because among all those people, two retired couples made a great friendship with us. English. They were extremely nice and polite people, very affectionate towards my son and me. One of them had been a pilot in the RAF, Royal Air Force, in the Second World War. The hotel had dancing and live music many nights, and I also made good friends with the singer of the orchestra, who even invited me to sing one night because he loved my voice. They also performed in other places, including a restaurant where we invited our new British friends one night for dinner, and where that old English pilot took me out to dance with all the class and education of the men of that era already lost in the mists of time. We had no choice but to take Aitor with us, as no one could take care of him, but as I mentioned before, he had no problem falling asleep in his stroller right in front of the orchestra and with all the ruckus of the place. I was very sad to see them leave when they finished their vacation period there, because for a few days I felt accompanied. The days in Gandía were lonely. There I began to savor what it was like not having my husband with me for almost the whole day, because his position required almost absolute dedication. And Aitor and I spent our days as best as we could, with long walks along the avenue of the beach, afternoons of siesta when the heat was oppressive, and mornings by the pool. I also made friends with a couple of housekeepers. One was a girl from the area, Laura, with whom I visited the city of Gandía, enjoying the Palace of San Francisco de Borja, located there and full of history. We had coffee and soft drinks in a bar in front of the hotel for many days, talking about our lives. Also in Gandía, our old Seat 127 took its last breath, returning from Alicante after visiting my grandparents and uncles. Halfway there, the exhaust pipe came loose, and we had to tie a rope that I had to hold from the inside the car until we reached the entrance of the city, where there was a Ford dealership, and we left our poor and faithful vehicle there, and we left on our way to the hotel with a new Ford Fiesta, another unexpected expense we had to face. I can't forget many of the things I saw, knew, and lived there in Gandía, from the beautiful Mount Mondúber that I could see from the balcony of my apartment and where we went one day, to the very good fideuà, the typical dish of the area, and that we tasted in Tabernes de Valdigna, a little town near Gandía. The beautiful endless orange groves and the beautiful Mediterranean light that I love so much. In October 1987, just on the day our son turned 13 months old, the the hotel closed for the winter season, and just that day, Aitor let loose in the lobby of that hotel to take his first and definitive steps. A bittersweet day between farewells to people who had become almost like family, and between joy and surprise brought by our beloved son.